the review of assistance and support. Okay, I just want to make sure before we start. Uh, my presentation deals with free resources for fall prevention for those Kentuckians who were 65 years and older. And within this presentation, I did put a disclaimer there because these are based on my experiences. I'm not endorsing any particular methodology or organization. I do have two goals. The first is that you, as the fall prevention supporter, and by supporter, I mean whether you're a physician, caregiver, pharmacist, nurse, civic or private organizational employee, anybody who is promoting, working with those who are 65 years old and older with fall prevention measures. I want everybody to know where to acquire free and available fall prevention resources from local, state, and even national organizations for those adults aged 65 years and older. Many of us may have a particular source that we like to get handouts or maybe even physical assisted devices from. But I'm hoping that within this context of the presentation, it will give you more options to work with. In addition, another goal, a second goal, is to assist with furthering the Safe Aging Coalition's vision. With this presentation, we have collaboration going on. We are united individually and together, but trying to keep older adults healthy as well as independent by identifying and addressing, reducing risk factors for injury. And I think collectively we can make differences for individuals, individually or as a group, but it is a group effort from what I've seen. There are four topics that I wish to address. The first is balance and mobility factors with falling, home environment factors allowing falls. Third, available free fall prevention resources. And the fourth one is something I learned about a week ago. I was attending a presentation from Ohio. And because this is the 21st century, technology is starting to take over. And there are elements of this new technology, this new approach, which would be free to help those who are age 65 and older to counteract falling. For those of us who remember the 70s, do you remember the 70s? For example, 77, when Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie came out and Elvis passed away. We also had Weebles. How many people remember Weebles? And the saying, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. People do. We're not shaped like Weebles. We cannot continuously rotate, maneuver on a eggshell base where we don't tip over so easily. Weebles do not step on pets or their toys. They do not miss a stair. In other words, we are human, and therefore we do fall down. I think we all believe and convinced that falls are not a requirement or a determined event to occur when we are getting older. However, we seem, and we have noticed this from various many sources, including in these presentations today, that the numbers for falling for people 65 years old and older are increasing. And that could be because A, the population is growing in that segment of our society, and B, we have better reporting procedures. To counteract this, when it comes to balance and mobility, we need to have awareness that we are not weebles, that we will wobble and fall down, even when we're using an assistant device such as cane. It does happen. And we have to take action in order to not wobble and fall down. Typically, we think of the individual when it comes to falling. Okay, mom fell. Here's a cane. Here's a walker. But how many people actually take the time to look at the home environment? An article by Terry Weber, which we'll mention the source later with the University of Kentucky, mentions that we have some issues that contribute to the conditions of home safety factors. These are individuals age 65 or older who may be loners, they're homebound, they can be depressed because they have lost family members such as husband or wife, maybe children have passed away earlier, sisters, brothers, their own parents, family members. They don't have much or any family support. And of course, there are the financial issues involved. So when we look at being loners, homebound, depressed, no family support, and financial, it reminds me of a story. And how I came about this story, which I think is very relevant to what we've been talking about today, is that I was down in Somerset and I ran into a very large national insurance executive. Not the top echelon, but pretty close to it. And he asked me if I did home inspection visits to help people out with fall prevention, with falling and so on. Could I go to somebody's house and make recommendations and so on? And I would be very leery to do that without proper training, certification, a few other things. Well, this gentleman, in talking to me, was telling me about this particular older lady in her early 90s who kept falling and everything. And she kept getting a hold of the insurance company to see what could be done to help her out. Finally, he went out, this gentleman I was talking to, went out to the person's home. And yes, it was true. She was having trouble falling and everything. She had a cane, but no walker and so on. And the house was just deplorable. It was terrible. It was ran down. It needed heavy maintenance. The floor sagged. And to top it all off, she actually had snakes and rats and other critters in the house with her. Just not cats or dogs, but actually snakes and rats. So she had a big pest problem too. So one could see the issues with this particular older lady when it came to fall prevention. And she's asking for help and everything. And she met all those 4 criterions. Being a loner because she had no family, basically homebound, couldn't drive or anything. She was down in the dumps because of her situation, had no family support, and of course the cost of fixing things too, or just being able to make some basic repairs or cleaning up of the place where it could be more safe for her and she would not fall. The Safe Aging Coalition, we have some handouts on our website, resource handouts where you can go and get things or information. They're free. We have press related announcements as well, so one can keep up with what's going on. We have radio spots on fall prevention. These are audio recordings that were made for radio productions. And when we look at those 3 items themselves, that's a good source of information. But for providers, for those of us supporters, we can use those 3 things, but we can also use our collaboration and the knowledge, the resources we gather through our quarterly meetings and our annual summit, such as what we've seen in the earlier presentations. In addition, as supporters, we can take what is provided with the monthly e-digest that comes out each month with the information and the contacts and see if we can help somebody out who needs it. And we all know there's plenty of need out there when it comes to fall prevention. One excellent source handout, which was developed by Dr. Ashley Bush and others, deals with the older adults fall fact sheet, and it's for the years of 18 through 2023. Again, these are free. And one thing we want to do is enhance the library, so to speak, enhance the capability of this information. Just not because there's this big patch of information, but also the approach in getting it out. And by that, I mean, for example, think about when we go to the store and we want to buy a shirt or a pair of pants or something. Well, we may not like the color of this or how it's arranged. It's the same thing with the information, such as how to recover from a fall. This particular handout, due to the arrangement or how it's presented, may not catch our eye or our client's eye, who we are trying to assist as a supporter. But the second handout or assisted device, whatever it may be, would be ideal and catches their eye and catches the individual's eye who we are trying to assist with fall prevention. One thing we have to think about, and I've been warned about this when I first came on the job, and I think it's kind of true, but not true, if you know what I'm trying to say. And that is people over the age of 65 are either not interested in using technology, social media, or they cannot learn, or they do not have the access for it. Yes, people at any age may not be interested in Twitter or Facebook, which Safe Aging Coalition does post information on regularly. But I also would counter that I know several individuals over the age of 65 who can receive information on mobility and balance, as well as home related safety, dealing with fall prevention, technology wise. And the reason I'm saying this is that I know of an individual who's out in Oklahoma with his wife on a farm, no neighbor for miles. They didn't have TV, didn't have a satellite TV or anything like that, but they did have internet connection. And the individuals, the husband and wife, would use an iPad to keep up on world affairs, national affairs, state affairs, also affairs in Kentucky where they were from, family, and so on. So imagine being out there on the prairie, so to speak, and you have no neighbors, nothing happening for miles and miles and miles, but you got that iPad and you're using it. I know people in my hometown of Moorhead that are in their 80s and 90s. They have laptops and they use them quite well. So where I'm going with this is that when we have our quarterly meetings, annual summits, a monthly digest, we can pass on that information to the people we work with in preventing falls. The No Falls website initiative does have an article called How to Get Up from a Fall. And it is very practical, very to the point of what we need to do in terms of when we fall. Based on what I have seen and experienced myself when we fall, sometimes we put out our arms trying to brace ourselves and so on. Uh, that can result in a lot of damage, or we're going up the stairs forward and we fall backwards. That can smart when you hit your head on the stairs or the porcelain tile or whatever it is, hardwood on the floor. To get up from a fall, if one thinks that they can, they need to be very careful, take their time, and of course, realize whether or not they can get out. In other words, they need to understand to be aware of their situation and engagement of what they can and cannot do. When it comes to the contacting Safe Aging Coalition, we try to answer the messages as quickly as we can. If you wish to join our agency and receive the e-digest and other information and keep up on what we're trying to achieve, in particular in the Lexington greater area, but throughout the entire state as well, we just need an email from you. Just need your name and email address, and you're on the road. We don't have fees. We don't have elaborate enrollment procedures or anything like that. We just need basic contact information, and I'll take it from there. When it comes to the 4 items we were talking about earlier, dealing with home safety, an article can be found on Elder Care Resource Directory for the University of Kentucky, and it's entitled "4 Aging Safety Issues to Consider" by Terry Weber. And Terry mentions 4 things that we need to think about. And the first 2 we talked about was the balance and mobility and balance, and the home safety. But she also brings up, and we talked about these briefly, depression, the role of depression, factors, the individual, family, and so on, dealing with fall prevention. And she also mentions personal safety, which deals heavily on operating a motor vehicle, such as a car or a truck, and things to look out for that too. The 4 aging safety issues to consider article is just one of the many sources of information that's available at no cost to anyone. And that site also, Elder Care Resource Directory, has caregiver information on many, many subjects, just not fall prevention, but other subjects that's related to individuals who are age 65 or older. When it comes to getting assistance, we typically think, or it seems like we try to focus, and we saw this in their presentations, not to be the fact that it's just falling down. In other words, there's other factors involved, and we've talked about some of those. And the area agencies on aging and independent living within Kentucky, there's 15 regions. They are able to help people in a variety of ways, and fall prevention is one of them. One of the many medical areas where they can help people. And when we go, if we should go to an AAA and ask for assistance, we need to be very precise in what we're doing. We can do this as a caregiver. We can do this as a supporter of fall prevention, working with those who need such assistance. We need to make sure that these services are free, that they are getting. We don't want individuals who are basically very dependent on us in some ways at times. I'm not saying all people over the age 65 and older are totally dependent on others, but there are some who may not be aware of how something may work financially when getting the service or whatever. In other words, we need to help or ensure that the person asking for assistance understands that they are free and there's no obligations involved. If there are obligations, are they financial or are they other than financial? For example, do they have to check in? Do they have to keep up on updates or whatever? The AAAs will offer various services ranging from Alzheimer's support groups, health promotion, home repair, legal assistance, outreach programs, recreation, transportation, and in some cases, legal assistance. Not all 15 regions will offer the same thing. The ones I just mentioned was from the Big Sandy area. So when the individuals go in there, besides making sure that these are free, you also need to get a list or understand exactly what these are for and how they can be used. For example, home repair. Going back to the individual who kept falling in her house and had a terrible home environment physically, and then had snakes and rats on top of her issues, what is home repair services being offered by the AAA at the Big Sandy region, which is located in Prestonsburg? So when we look at this stuff and wonder about, okay, what do we mean by home repairs? Is that referral to builders who will charge a fee? Are these volunteers that will come out and assist with minor work? And therefore, we need to make sure that these AAAs are meeting the needs of the individuals and not causing more problems or issues for those who are 65 years old or older. These are the regions, the 15 regions, and I hope everybody can see the slide okay. It does no harm to contact them, and as we know in our fields of work, collaboration, information, getting a lead on where to go can really pay off for a lot of people. So if you're in, say, the Green River area, Owensboro is where you would contact. Or if you're in the Bluegrass area, Lexington, Northern Kentucky, Florence is the main office. Locally, by this I mean within a community. And when each supporter or each individual who's able to do so on their behalf, seeking services for fall prevention, need to check their local community for such groups. There are two here in Lexington that I've been working with, and we have endeavors starting in September with them. The Lexington Senior Citizen, which is off of Richmond Road here in Lexington. It's a real nice building. They got so many activities. They serve breakfast, they serve lunch inside of the building. They have dancing, library, checkers, exercises, the whole 9 yards. And of course, if we go to Blue Lick, Kentucky or Mousy, Kentucky, that center may have less services based on where it's located and the revenue streams and the tax base and so on. But anyway, Lexington Senior Citizen also delivers meals to approximately 120 individuals who are homebound. The Safe Aging Coalition in September will start making packets of information dealing with fall prevention related subjects, and we will have those delivered to the homebound individuals. Most of them are homebound, or they just don't get out much. And therefore, we can make the connections with those individuals over the age 65 and older about fall prevention, and hopefully we can make a difference there. In addition, the Trinity Hill United Methodist Church has Meals on Wheels. These are two separate food delivery systems. Meals on Wheels, after talking with them, are willing to do the same thing. And we are looking at approximately 180 packets to be delivered starting in September with them with fall prevention stuff. And then we fudge a little, add some extras, and that's 330. So how is this going to work? Well, first off, the safety factor of the individuals we're trying to help. Meals with Wheels, it took 4 conversations to try to convince them I was not an insurance agent, salesperson who would show up as a deliverer of food and say, oh, by the way, here's my card. Let's talk about insurance for a couple hours. They've actually had that happen more than once. So rightfully, they are very protective of protecting these elderly adults of our society. So how this is working, September, we're going to have about 330, 340 packages of this information to go out. And I'll take it down to the centers and they will deliver them. We're going to do this once a month. It's a game plan right now. Say Billy Bob Ray Smith is going to get this package and things are fine the first month. And then he moves on. He goes and lives with his family members in Montana, or he wins the lottery and goes to Europe or whatever. And Susan Sue Smith shows up, and some other people. I will not be tracking these individuals, and this is more because of safety on behalf of the people 65 or older. Both the Lexington Senior Citizen and United Methodist Church will tell me how many more they need per month, the upcoming month, or how many to reduce, because there could be a big drop, 10, 15. So this is not going to be a daily thing because meals are delivered on a daily basis or weekly and so on. It's going to be one time a month where we are reaching out using the home delivery food systems by the Senior Citizen and Methodist Church Meals on Wheels as a distribution center, so to speak, to get the information out to them. Now, this is just not handouts and so on. This can be other items dealing with fall prevention, such as assistant devices, and I'll show you a couple of those in a moment. But first, quiz time. Change avenue here. Which of the following is a personal fall prevention device? A, hipster's protection pad. B, a bed alarm that goes under your mattress of your bed. C, a thick and soft protective helmet. Or D, all. And we've had 3 answers for D for all, and that is correct. These are items that typically we would not think about. They are for sale on Amazon. And Amazon's got a lot of these interesting things where it will help with either preventing falls or reduce the injury impact of a fall. So you're correct. And Linda, same thing, all. So we have to be careful about what devices we use, and maybe keeping it simpler is better, such as not keeping the house cluttered, using approved walker, if whatever modifications need to be done. In other words, we have to be proactive. We have to assess the situation because each situation could be different and get engaged with what we're doing there. So you got 100%. Now, this is a foundation that was mentioned earlier. And the thing about what I like really about it are the handouts. They're comprehensive. For example, there is the safe movement handout, and this thing is 40 pages long. It's also in English and Spanish together. The first part is in English, and the same stuff is later on in the handout is in Spanish. They have exercises for safe movement and building strong bones, for general mobility and balance. They talk about bone test scores to determine how weak or how strong your bones are. They have things like fracture risk assessment tools, vertebrate fracture assessments, all kinds of good information that one can work with. So that might be a handout that somebody would like to use as a supporter working with individuals. And there are also movement no-nos, things that we don't want to do. Our movements, it argues the article needs to be smooth, thought out, especially when we're using assistant devices such as walkers and canes, because we don't want to have any issues when it comes to using an assistant device or using any of the information in this article and others from this foundation and make things worse. National Council on Aging has a lot of information. I'm sure everybody has checked out this source. If not, it's worthwhile doing, taking the time to navigate the various pages of information and advice and resources that it has. It just is packed with stuff. And for the newcomers in the audience, I think you'll find that this particular source for fall prevention is really interesting. For example, they have the fall free checkup. This is an interactive test with 13 questions to assess one's score on how, about falling. The first question will ask, are you the patient? Are you doing this for somebody else? Things like that. Who are you, in other words? You'll get 4 items stating that, who are you? Then it will go into questions such as, have you fallen in the last year? Do you have problems stepping up on a curve? And there's 13 questions such as that. And once you answer it, it calculates the score. It's not a numeric score. The score ranged from low, being a low fall risk individual, to a high fall risk individual. And then the site will provide potential information or methodologies that will help you or help the supporter working with someone to address the issues that the interactive program highlighted. And actually, it's the person that highlighted that they have trouble stepping up on the curves. Handouts are in English and Spanish, such as Care for Your Vision and Hearing, 5 Ways to Lower Falls Risk. I've seen one handout that's not only in English and Spanish, but Portuguese as well. So the expansion to others within our community is a very important thing. That's something I like to see the Safe Aging Coalition us do, is take our handouts and see how we can help the other groups in their society, such as putting some of the handout stuff in, that we have to give out in Spanish. They also have evidence-based programs that will help individuals with balance and mobility as well. And then one that is particularly interesting to me was the 7 base medical alert systems of 2024. We see commercials of the Lifeline or other devices where, and typically it's a woman in older years, laying on the floor and she's saying, help, I cannot get up. And the spokesperson states, well, if you had her product, hit the button, you'll get help. Somebody will come online. From personal experience this year, these are helpful. There is somebody to help the individual. By personal experience, I don't mean I wear one or use it, but my mother does. Yet at the same time, I'm wondering about the technology side of these devices, and I'm glad there's a resource where these can be evaluated, in that we've had 4 packages in the last year with the same device show up to the house to replace the current existing device because of upgrades or something went wrong with the current device. So maybe we ought to look at another device and use such as a handout information like this to determine what would be best. In addition, something I have learned in my endeavors with these medical alert systems, it's not like the TV where somebody responds real quick. It's like ADT, where you hit the button or there's a break-in ADT and automatically somebody's on the line. No, it may take a few seconds, up to a minute or two before somebody responds. So response time with these medical alert systems is something that one wishes or probably wants to look at. How fast can I get help? CDC handouts, again, are available in English and Spanish. They have evidence-based programs. And they all have the stopping elderly of accidents, deaths, and injuries, or STEDI resources, which one can access. So between NCOA and CDC with STEDI, there's a whole a whole warehouse, so to speak, of information that one can get and use to guide the supporter working with individuals for assistance. but at some point it needs to go beyond handouts, information, and so on. We need a physical device. We need things to help us out. And that's what I want to talk about next. Free local fall prevention devices. And hopefully the images are clear on the slide. And this is something that we are starting to work with. The Lexington Senior Citizen Center, the one that we're working with, 102 with the home meal delivery system to get handouts and other stuff out, they have a room. And I mean, they have a room that has raised bathroom seats, walkers, and canes that they are more than happy to distribute to the area of Lexington. And they're free. Most of the walkers are the third one, not the fancy sit on it with the handbrakes and so on. They have a few of those. And of course, it ebbs in terms of exactly what they will have in terms of the items themselves. It could be a week or two, they have a bunch of the fancy walkers with the seats and the pockets and the basket. And maybe for months, they basically have only the basic walkers. And then, of course, they have various types of raised commode seats to address falling in the bathrooms. And these are free. If you know anybody who would like to use these, and yes, they're used, except for the bathroom seats. I've seen the boxes. Also in that room, just let you know, they have boxes and boxes of adult, depends, bathroom, older people, for lack of a better word, underwear, diapers, support, clothing, and some other odds and ends too. But when it comes to fall prevention assistive devices, you can go through me, contact me, and I can get a hold of, let them know about it, or you can contact them yourself and ask about it too. And I will get the information out on who to contact for these free items. Now, the Safe Aging Coalition also have refrigeration magnets. People like these, put it up on the refrigerator, see it every time. Hopefully you open the door to get that soda or that piece of pie or whatever out of the freezer. These are something that we have abundance of, and we are distributing. For example, at the senior citizen, we left 70 of these on the library counter to see if people would take them home with them. They have. And that will be something we'll have to do with our distribution system. And that methodology is to keep on top of it. And then we have the night lights too. We have not a big supply of these. They do work. And I think they are a very important thing to go with bathroom safety or any room safety at night. I am looking for a manufacturer where hopefully we can get more of these made. I have contacted the Department of Public Health, talked to 3-4 people. There's no more around in the building, apparently, within their network. And nobody can seem to find the original paperwork or find purchase orders and so on to see where they got it made from. And they tried to help me out. They really put some effort into it. So I'm looking for a manufacturer where maybe we can get these made and distribute, as well as other devices too. Now, kind of going back to the home safety issues. Here's a picture of a staircase. It's made of wood. And as you can see, there's no exterior lighting except at the top. And as you go downstairs, you don't know where you're going. And believe it or not, this is 8 o'clock at night, earlier part of the year. Well, you go downstairs and there's a platform. You can turn left, you can turn right, or you can keep going downstairs, believe it or not. They have no indication there's more stairs, and you can wind up in a lake. This is from a state park in Kentucky. And I know there's a work order funding. I did talk to the the park supervisor, and she said, yeah, they know of the problem and they're trying to get funding for it. They've got some funding where they can put lighting and make alterations. But this goes with one's home as well. Think about deck stairing. steps and so on, or within the house itself, not proper lighting. And so therefore, when we look at changes, they can be big or they can be small. And even small changes can be a big thing, such as nightlight being installed, cleaning up clutter, getting that basket off the staircase that people like to put there with magazines, flowers, or whatever. We can make simple changes to the home environment. Supporters can advocate this and actually help individuals too in making these small changes to prevent falls. When it comes to the home itself, how do you fall proof your home? The NCOA has a nice handout, 18 steps in fall proofing your home. It is worthwhile reading. It is worthwhile distributing. And this is something a physician could do, or a physical therapist and so on. You could have a rack within your establishment with these items. And that's something I have noticed in hospitals and other places. There will be handouts and so on cancer, motor vehicles, child poisonings, and so on. But I cannot think of any place that I've been in recent memory where there was handouts about fall prevention. And that's something I want to examine and see how we can do that. We all know that falls can be very expensive, and this was talked about earlier in one of the presentations. And there are tangible and intangible expenses dealing with falls. To give an idea of what it can be like in Fayette County alone for residents 65 to 75 years of age, when it came to billing charges for fall-related emergency visits, it was $28,611 and $430. $28,611,430. Medium charges $5,841. But what if you're older? You fall 75, 80, whatever, you're going to have probably more issues because you're more fragile. And other factors such as bone density is not as good as when we were younger, or whatever the situation may be. So the total charges for that age group was 66 million, I'm sorry, 286,398. Compared the 56,289,398 against the 28,611,430. Good size difference. And then, of course, the medium charges was 7,238. All right, now we're to something I'm very excited about. Very, very excited about. And that is a potential new way of working with individuals who are subject to falling when they're 65 years of age and older. Again, going back to its 21st century, technology is ruling involved, overtaking so much of our life. Artificial intelligence is there. And therefore, there are attempts by the National Institute of Health, as well as National Council on Aging, to use this technology to help individuals, whether they're homebound or not, or whatever their situation may be. Yes, this can be free from that perspective for the individual. However, there will be costs involved someplace along the line with the development of this, and I'll explain that shortly. In a presentation about 2 weeks ago that was held in Ohio, Matthew Smith, who is at Texas A&M, had this wonderful project. And what it is, it takes an avatar to work on a device like a smartphone, tablet, and so on. It can be used at home or any place else. And it does exercises. It makes movement. It helps with mobility and balance, strength training, all kinds of things. And watching all of this, and of course, I want, like most people probably would like to see it 2 or 3 times during the presentation to grasp what he was doing, his group. It also monitors the patients, the person who engage with this avatar, actions and progress. In other words, there are reports, there's downloaded data on the progress or lack of progress, perhaps, dealing with the enhancements of these exercises, mobility, and balance procedures. And this is perfectly possible if one thinks about the gaming industry that we have. So this is from the Administration for Council Living Innovation Lab with NCOA. And this is a statement in describing on the website about what they're doing. It's an attempt, in other words, to work with universities, businesses, and so on to use available technology to come up with a system that will assist those in age 65 and older with falling. And there's 4 parts to this whole project. And getting the grant funding, developing it, reporting results, having a successful project. The first condition is being able to develop a taxonomy to identify the core components of fall prevention programs that increase efficiency with mobility and balance. Develop a methodology to identify those core components for fall prevention programs that will increase mobility, efficiency, balance. And then a second condition is you must be able to build a publicly available system to house the findings. In other words, you get all this data. Say you have 100 subjects, you get all this data and everything over a period, a year, 6 months or whatever. You got to store it someplace. And we have to think about HIPAA. We have to think about other considerations, the size of the storage itself that we're going to need. So it's possible if an organization does not have the storage capability, the bandwidth, that all the technology hardware that is needed to handle the bytes that are coming in and out, the bits of data, then it's going to have to be solved for someplace else. The third condition is be able to fund. The project should be able to fund community-based organizations to conduct their own research. And therefore, that's why many of the groups that have applied for funding and been awarded are academic institutions because they have the infrastructure and they are community-based. So all 3 of these, the taxonomies, building a public available system to house the findings, funding a community-based organization to conduct their own research, those 3 conditions must lead to promote practices that actually work for the people who we are working with for fall prevention. So imagine, loosely said, a game, an avatar that works with you, a mentor, so to speak, with exercises, mobility, and so on, that helps the individual. And of course, collectively, those in that area that needs assistance. Now, Dr. Smith is having a article coming out, publication soon, about the findings of his program with others. I talked with Dr. Smith by email. He wouldn't give me a draft copy of the article, but he did send me the abstract with some of the results in it. So if anybody's interested, because I did ask Dr. Smith if I could share that with attendees, with people in the conference, and he said yes. So if you're interested, I'll send that to you. And I just think it's a fascinating new way to address fall prevention. And we never know where it's going to lead, what additional benefits can have it. So some things to consider if one is interested in this new technology, engaging it, requiring the knowledge, the ability to work with people as a supporter. There are grants available through NIH and NCOA. Of course, the projects are going to be very, very competitive, and have to have the infrastructure to work with it. So therefore, if you don't have the infrastructure to house the data and do other health related record storing capabilities with such a project, you're going to have to go to an outside group such as Blue Marble Health. And if I recall correctly, Dr. Smith, his group from Texas A&M is also working with Blue Marble Health. I think that's correct. And then you might have to have additional resources and partners. So when we look at the free aspect, it can be free. You know, we can give the person that's 70 years old this program, this capability to improve their lives, address fall prevention on their behalf. But behind the scenes, to get to that point and keep it going, and any updates or anything like that, there can probably be expenses involved. So it's kind of a mixture there. But it looked very promising, and it was just riveting to see what he had done, his group had done. Therefore, that concludes the my presentation. I want to thank you all for attending about free resources. If I can help you out in any way, in this presentation gave everybody hopefully an idea of where they can go get items to help the people they work with, or where people themselves can go. That's one thing complaint I hear from people in my neighborhood with older individuals. They will say, I don't know how to do this on the website, or I don't know where to go. And I explain, well, this is what this is what you do, and so on. Sometimes sit down with them with whatever they're seeking online. So we have to be proactive. We have to engage. We have to be aware of what we're doing with these individuals. The physical devices, the walkers, canes, and so on, again, they're available. And apparently there's a steady supply of these. My understanding from Lexington Senior Citizen is that they're always getting these things. And again, they get a good sized room of these devices that others can have for free. And then, of course, the Safe Aging Coalition will provide what we can. And that's on top of any maybe other methodologies, presentations, and what have you, that we can help with people over the age 65 with fall prevention. I want to thank everybody individually and as a group for attending my session. Have a good day.